Now there's another digital part of the program. It's a lecture by the art critic Orit Gat. She's an Israeli who's currently lives in the USA, in New York, so it's 7 hours, also years maybe. So it's the middle of the night there, basically. So what she did is prepared a lecture for us. I would just say that she's writing in Art Agenda, Freeze, and yeah, just 1 second, Dorit. So it's a lecture. It won't steal our time because it's specifically made for this time pattern. So yes.
Well, what you're looking at are installation shots from When Attitudes Become Form, Bern 1969, Venice 2013. It was a recreation of Harold Zeman's famous exhibition, Live in Your Head, When Attitudes Become Form, showing the Venetian palace occupied by the Fondazione Prague. The 2013 exhibition's curator, Jemima Chalant, who worked on it in dialogue with artist Thomas Amend and star architect Rem Koolhaas, conceived of the original 1969 presentation as a ready-made, which he then restaged in Venice. The 2013 show presents the same artworks as Zeman's original, and the arrangement winks at the Bern one, with lines on the floor demarcating the organization of the space at the Kunsthalle Bern. The subtitle of Zeman's show was Works, Concepts, Processes, Situations, Information. Attitudes was revolutionary because it reflected a then current mode of production, which included what we now refer to as land art, conceptual art of porphyra, and other proximate movements that was immaterial. The word information in the exhibition's title is especially crucial here, since Zeman's interest was not necessarily in showing work per se. It was in showing working processes. Only about 40 of the 69 artists included in Attitudes actually displayed artwork in the exhibition space. The rest were pieces that, for various reasons, could not be exhibited, and were consequently displayed as information in the exhibition catalog. Fast forward to 2013, where a dematerialized attitude takes the form of a series of objects once again. Why not make a facsimile reprint of the catalog? Well, first of all, it's already available in Uruguay. Secondly, one of the most interesting and most overlooked parts of the Venice iteration was the ground floor, where archival matter from the original Attitudes was displayed in vitrines. There was a lot of information around, but the emphasis was directed at the art objects. The experience of viewing it resembled watching a movie based on a favorite novel. You've imagined it many times, but somehow, seeing it presented never matches your vision. Attitudes was far from the first exhibition to have been restaged. The year before, the Brooklyn Museum mounted Materializing 6 Years. Lucy was part in the emergence of conceptual art. Focused on the part's seminal book, 6 Years, The Dematerialization of the Art Object, 1966 to 1972, the show included artworks from the time, alongside ephemera from exhibitions from that period, catalogs, artist books, and so on. While the cardstock focused on the political context and possibilities of the art that she was analyzing, the Brooklyn Museum exhibition cordoned off sections dealing with politics and feminism, leaving main stage for the art objects, surrounded by an assortment of vitrines full of collectible items. 40 years, give or take, is apparently the time it takes to shift from dematerialization to rematerialization. The context that these restaged exhibitions are operating in is, of course, the rise in interest in contemporary curatorial practice, and with it, a spike in research into exhibition histories. It makes a lot of sense. Researching exhibitions means looking into the context in which art is shown and produced. I'm not arguing that we do not need to rethink the exhibition as a format. To the contrary, I think there is a lot to say about the roles of different kinds of exhibitions: solo, thematic group show, commercial versus nonprofit, international biennial, and so on, play in the production of art and in establishing the value of artists and their work. What I would like to argue is that we also need to rethink the way the art world is establishing exhibition as the sole way of seeing art. 2. One of the main ways we see art today is by thumbnail. Research begins online, and it often begins with a series of images. Much of the contemporary experience of art is mediated by images. But somehow, that doesn't count as seeing art, because it's done in front of a screen, because it means looking at copies of copies of copies, because it does not involve a physical presence in an art space. Art exists in the kind of eternity of display, writes Byron Doherty in Inside the White Cube. He was right then, and he's still right. The question today is what could constitute display? And I relish how great this word is in this context because it's used just as often in art as it does to discuss screen technology. Technology changes the way that artwork circulates. One day, an exhibition could be sent to an institution via email. Well, scratch that. That's already happened. A video file can be sent from a screening program. A high-resolution TIFF file can be printed at a local printer by a museum. This is even happening with more object-oriented mediums. An artist can send an STL file to be 3D printed for an exhibition. We are currently living through a much more substantial dematerialization of art than the one that Art discussed. And one of the primary responses of the artwork has been verification. So any work that can be infinitely reproducible is now sold in editions. A gallery's letterhead on a certificate of authenticity is where the value now lies. Can there be a more dematerialized object? Technology apparently cannot cancel our object obsession. But what constitutes looking today? A curator and art critic will be given a viewing copy of a video work by a gallery. Does that constitute watching the work? Not really if it's a video installation that requires a certain environment or a multi-channel presentation. But much video that is produced at the moment is narrative, single-channel presentations. We can rent it from Electronic Art Intermix or from Lux. We stream it on Google Web. We view it on online platforms like Vidrom, Opening Times Digital Art Commissions, or the White Review's White Screen. Though both the White Screen and Vidrom only screen every given work for a period of a month or 2 weeks respectively, abiding by the gallery system's verification mechanism. This is not criticism per se. I actually think the main contribution of both these platforms make, and it's not a coincidence that they're both organized by magazines, is in promoting writing on moving image work by commissioning essays in conjunction with the screenings. Apart from movies, in my research, I've seen a lot of artists' websites that do not have images. Many of them use similar design platforms, by which I mean Cargo and IndExhibit, and so they're all reminiscent of each other. But by the fact that they don't include images, these artists reject, in a way, the assumption that their work could be viewed by thumbnail, opting for other ways of presentation, be it video or text or anything else. And this kind of considered presentation of the sense of the work, minus the thumbnail, sometimes communicates more about the work than a series of images. Seeing art on screen has become one of the main ways in which we are exposed to both contemporary and historic work. So why do we still define art viewing as a gallery-dependent experience? Partly, it's the hope that the event brings with it an encounter with the work or with other viewers, an encounter that somehow departs from the realms of immediacy, isolation, insignificance that we associate with the internet. What I'm saying is you're supposed to imagine a single person sitting in front of a screen looking at an image of a cat. Maybe we need to resist the way art circulates online. After all, looking at installation shots from gallery exhibitions on Contemporary Art Daily often does not communicate the complexities and intricacies of the work that is on view. But maybe we need to recognize that when based engagement, be it installation shots, images, or video lens, is becoming a central mechanism through which we now view art, and that we are thus required to build a critical apparatus that analyzes and responds to it. 3. Independent Curators International circulates exhibitions in a box, describing the press release as charged with a do-it-yourself imperative. Every box includes a lot of content for an exhibition that's very low cost, that any institution can adapt according to their needs and their space. The series is developed by artists, curators, and historians, and the content of the boxes varies from very small artworks, videos, soundworks, instruction works, to ephemera and archival material. The first exhibition in the box, by the way, focused on Harold Zeman's documented 5. The box material is sent to an institution that ordered it and installed at their discretion. Much of what is described above is a fight undertaken by minimalism and conceptualism, and largely won. The separation of the work from the object echoes milestones like John Judd's specific objects, Joseph Kossuth's 1 and 3 chairs, or Dan Flavin's use of store-bought material, and his inclusion of instructions for their ready-made replacement in the case of a damaged fixture. But the lessons of the above have largely not been learned. They've gone unlearned in one central aspect, the dependence on the exhibition space as the site in which art happens. While the intellectual shift, dissociating the art from the object, has had a lasting impact on the way we discuss and think about contemporary art, the importance of the museum as a site to validate the work as art has not been diminished at all. This is where Carl Andre makes literature of nature's pad thai, meets a certain urinal or fountain, meets abstract painting. The reliance on the context of the institutional walls, floors, or screening rooms allows for easy recognition of the work as art. While there's still work to be done with the exhibition format, there is much more to discuss than what happens to art outside the exhibition space. And for that, there may be a need to discuss what happens after the exhibition. The term, call it exhibition, show, presentation, or any other synonym that's used to avoid sounding repetitive, communicates just too little. The event model, because even if an exhibition lasts 5 weeks, most people will only see it once, which makes it an event, has played into the hands of the markets. It allows for nonprofits and museums to show artists that they cannot afford to collect, while enhancing the value of the work by way of institutional affiliation. Globalization has also played an important role in the financial aspects of the exhibition, especially where cultural tourism is involved. And I'm not the first one to point this out in the context of the rise of international biennials, but also in the rise of the multinational gallery. The format of the exhibition, the event, might not be the best frame to present work online or outside the traditional gallery or museum space. It would be very provocative of me to say, let's just stop making exhibitions, and that's not at all what I'm advocating. Rather, I'm lamenting the overproduction of exhibitions, often at the expense of investing in or developing any other forms of engagement with art. A lot of the conversation around exhibition histories discusses the importance of looking at the exhibition as the context in which art is produced. But I think what it ends up being is discussing the exhibition as a context on its own. Part of the problem is authorship. There is curatorial authorship anxiety, much of which is played out in discussions around the relationship between artists and curators. Think about Anton Vidocle's text, Art Without Artists, or the Victor Vix conferences in Rotterdam, The Critics, the Curators, the Artists in 2008-9. But also, it's a problem in the production of knowledge. The exhibition does have a really important role as a space for dialogue, but the anxiety to generate meaning, and to generate meaning at least 4 times a year, has created a highly regulated, professionalized curatorial practice that is marked by a pressure to produce exhibitions. And at times, they feel like a tree falling in the wood, an event without viewers, save for an e-flex announcement, which safely places it in a certain history. Is the exhibition the best way to come up with? A number of discourses around curatorial practice adopt the enhanced meaning the term has acquired, as it has been distanced from art and overtaken by curated wine lists. An expanded idea of curating is now understood to encompass much more than exhibition making. It includes public programming, editorial work, educational initiatives, the curating of screening series, and so on. Maybe the exhibition needs to pass through a similar deflation as a term. Maybe once we see the term exhibition is overused as curating has been in the past decade or so, we'll see a way out of the tried and tested, a way out of the exhibition. 4. One of the iconic works in Zenon's attitude was Walter de Maria's Orit Gat telephone. It included a ring phone with a sheet of paper in front of it reading, "If this telephone rings, you may answer it. Walter de Maria is on the line and would like to talk to you." It encompasses the spirit of when attitudes become formed exactly because of the surprising daily object, phone, and activity, picking it up, morphing into a singular experience because of the setup and the exhibition. It's a work that requires an institutional setting, because had Ave Maria been calling random numbers off the phone booth, that would hardly be the same work. And it uses the exhibition space marvelously. Art by telephone rang on the opening night of the Venice version of Attitudes. Mutual Prada was the first to answer. The way I imagined their conversation, it began with, maybe after some pleasantries, De Maria asking Prada what the exhibition looked like. He would ask, though he already knows, and if he doesn't, it's uncontemporary autonomy.